Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, welcome to a new episode of the Qur'an Science. This is your host, Tamer Mumtaz, welcoming our dear Professor, Dr. Zaghloul Al-Nagar, Head of Committee on Scientific Facts in the Glorious Qur'an, Supreme Council on Islamic Affairs, welcoming our dear guests, Brother Mustafa and Brother Fuad. And today's episode is By the Sky That Returns. But before we continue with our topic, we'll listen to a recitation of the verse from Surah Al-Tariq, verse number 11.
By the sky that is given the capacity to return.
Professor,
yes,
we spoke about the sky, and I hope that before we continue, in the episode where we spoke about the sky, you said that our solar system is just a small part of the sky.
a very tiny part of it.
A very tiny part of it.
Yes.
How do we know that this is the first sky? Or is it the seven skies? Who put the limits that this is the first sky and there is another sky? How do we know that?
In the name of Allah, our Creator, the Creator of the universe and of everything that's in it, I greet you all and your audience in our Islamic way. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace, blessings, and mercy be with you all. First of all, astronomers can only deal with what they see. And they only see a small part of the first firmament, or the first sky. They don't see anything above it. So they don't believe in seven heavens or seven firmaments or seven skies. And as I said in another episode, unless Allah has told us that He has created seven firmaments, there was no way in front of man to investigate this or see it or follow it up. Because the universe is so vast, so immense, so complex, that we cannot see everything in it. We only see a small part of it. But stemming from the Holy Qur'an and from the teachings of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I came to realize that Mecca is at the center of the universe. And the globe, the earth, is at the center of the universe. Let me first of all say, the globe is at the center of the universe. The seven earths are all included in our earth. Yes. And Mecca is at the center of the first earth. And being in the center, the whole globe, in the center of the universe, so Mecca is in the center of the universe.
Okay.
In as much as the seven earths envelop each other, the seven firmaments, or seven skies, or seven heavens, also envelop each other. The seven globes envelop each other. So how can we see them? We are right in the center, you see. So we can only see a small sector of the first firmament. And that's why secular scholars can only speak about what they see and touch and feel. And they speak about galaxies, galactic gatherings, constellations, groups of stars, and the like. You see, they describe what they see.
So with the scientists, there is only one sky.
They speak about, they don't even call it sky. They speak about the universe.
Okay.
And they imagine that this is everything. Yeah, they do not believe in anything that they cannot see. So the universe is so complex, so vast, so immense, that man being living on that planet he can only see a small fraction of what's around him or around her. And that's why the Holy Quran usually encourages Muslims to ponder about the universe, look into the horizons around themselves, look into themselves. And there are a great number of verses in the Holy Quran that encourage man to meditate and think and ponder about the universe. Because looking into the universe, you can see some reflections on the qualities of the Creator. The greatness of the universe reflects on the greatness of the Creator. The orderly running of the universe reflects something about the power of the Creator, His wisdom, His knowledge. And that's why we cannot see our Creator, but we can see His creation, and we can conclude some of His supreme qualities from what He has created.
Well, that makes me think of a question.
Yes.
In the Quran, it is mentioned that stars decorates the lowest heaven. The
Yes.
lowest heaven is decorated with stars.
That's exactly
So
what
this is just,
this
does
is
this
an
have any
excellent point.
relation with what
Yeah.
we're speaking with?
Indeed. This is a very, very good point. And I was coming to it. Because the Quran emphasizes that stars are the ornament of the first firmament alone.
Yeah.
Other firmaments wouldn't know how can we detect them. And that's why astronomers work on stars. And so long they work on stars, they are in the first firmament. But
So
this is only from the
This is
Quran.
our proof that this sky is the first sky, because
Yes,
it is the
yes.
only sky that is decorated.
With the stars and the satellites of stars. Yeah.
SubhanAllah. So by the sky that returns.
You see, this verse comes in Surah Al-Tariq. And Al-Tariq means the knocking star.
The knocking star.
Knocking star. And the surah starts by وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ, by the firmament and the knocking star. And early commentators on the Quran wondered what would be the knocking star. They said Al-Tariq is the knocker. And in the early days, all the big cities used to have walls around the city with big gates, and these gates would be closed at night, immediately after sunset. And anybody coming after sunset, he had to knock at the door. So in Arabic, At-Tariq means somebody who's coming late at night and knocking at your door, you see. So they said, what comes at night? They said, stars. Stars appear at night and they disappear during the day. So they said, وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ. And then the question is addressed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And any question addressed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the Quran is equally addressed to all his followers. وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ وَمَا أَدْرَكَ مَا الطَّارِقِ. What do you think At-Tariq is? You see? And then the answer comes, النجم الثاقب. The piercing star. Of course, at that time, nobody knew anything about stars. They thought all stars are alike. So they said it's an ordinary star. And the ordinary star pierces the firmament by its light. And this was quite good, no harm in that. But only towards the end of the 20th century, in the late 1970s, it was discovered that stars have got a life cycle. Stars are born, they have a youthfulness or a youth stage, they have a mature stage, they have an old age stage, and then they start exploding and dying into smoke. And as we said earlier, stars are created from smoke and they end into smoke. And this is a testimony to the might of the Creator, because we also are created from earth, and finally we go back to earth. And they said during the dying phases of stars, as a result of excessive temperature and excessive pressures, matter at the core of the star is condensed. And the result of this explosion of a supernova is what we call a neutron star. And the neutron star is so compact, so condensed, that the electrons in the orbits of the nuclei of atoms, which carry a negative charge, meet the proton at the core, which carries a positive charge. So they become neutralized. And that's why they call them neutron stars. Neutron stars are small-sized stars. The diameter does not exceed 20 kilometers, 18 to 20 kilometers. But they have a fantastic density, a density of around 1 billion tons for a cubic centimeter. And because of this, they revolve around their own axes at a fantastic speed, almost 30 times. They complete the revolution 30 times every second. And they radiate radio waves. They send out radio waves. And these radio waves knock our sky, knock the atmosphere of the earth in exactly the same way somebody knocks at the door to be opened for him. And that's why the Quran calls it At-Tariq. And it's amazing, really, for a book revealed more than 14 centuries ago to speak about a knocking star. And only in the late 70s of the 20th century, scientists come to discover that we physically have knocking stars. And these stars, by the radio waves, they knock the atmosphere of the earth. And I have recorded this knocking. And you cannot really have a word to describe it better than At-Tariq.
Professor, the term knocking star was given to this star by who? By the scholars?
No, they call them pulsars, from the pulse of the heart. Scientists call it pulsar. And some of them call it a knocking star. And the term pulsar was not known until the late 1970s. So for a book revealed more than 14 centuries ago, to speak about this type of stars is something absolutely amazing.
So the Tariq represent a type of star, not one specific star.
And actually the verses specify a particular star.
Yeah. Okay.
It says, وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ, by the firmament and the knocking star. وَمَا أَدْرَكَ مَا الطَّارِقِ. What do you think, Muhammad or any Muslim follower, what do you think the Tariq is? And then the answer comes, النجم الثاقب, the piercing star.
But that makes me wonder, Dr. Zaghloul, regarding the old explanation or the old tafsir to this surah, right? And was it where did the old Muslims, the first Muslims, ancient Muslims, if I may call them that, did they get it from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ mouth, or did they predict it, or how did they?
Of course, you see, as I said earlier, one of the beauties of the Holy Quran is that the verse comes in a few words.
Right.
And every generation can see in these few words a meaning. And these meanings unfold with time. So that the Quran will remain always encompassing human knowledge, whatever level this human knowledge can reach.
But the word knocking.
Yes.
The word knocking, when we hear the word knocking, we think of disturbance.
Yes.
Does it disturb the atmosphere of the earth? Or
no, it does. Of course, if you record it as a sound, you change the radio waves into sound waves, and you can hear it exactly similar to somebody knocking at the door.
But we can't hear it here.
No, you cannot hear it here.
Okay.
You have to have radio telescopes to catch it and change it into sound waves. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So this short surah contains a great knowledge, a vast knowledge of science. And one of it is the verse which we have chosen as the title of this episode, وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتَ الرَّجْحِ, because we are still talking about السَّمَاء, the firmament. وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتَ الرَّجْحِ means by the firmament that has the capacity to return. To return what? Early scholars said the most valuable things that returns to us from the sky is rain. So they said by the firmament that has got the capacity to send down rain. Because water vapor rises from the earth, it rises up to find a cool zone where it condenses and comes back.
So the rain came from
originally from the earth, yes.
And it will return to us.
It has to return back to us.
Okay, so I think we'll go for a short break and we continue after the break.
Okay.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, viewers.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك
Talbiyah, as we all know, is when a Muslim would say labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik, innal hamda wan ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. Should not say that. Every Muslim should perform Hajj. And when we are performing the Hajj, we need to reach this perfection by seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, by seeking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and making sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best and we do not know what is good for us. The Kaaba is not the bricks that is being built. The Kaaba is what is behind, or what's behind the meanings of Al-Kaaba, the first house of worship. If a person would know the wisdom behind every move that a person do in matters of worship, then where's the submission comes into the full meanings of it. To remember what Hajar, the wife of Ibrahim alayhi salam, when she went from the Safa to the Marwa, so concerned and disturbed about the affairs of her child Ismail, when he was laying some place between the Safa and the Marwa, crying because of the shortage of food and water.
لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك اللهم
Welcome back, and Professor Zaghloul was telling us about the sky that returns. So water goes up from our land and the sky returns it back.
Yes, water is evaporated by the heat of the sun. It goes into clouds, and then this cloud moves into a zone of very low temperature. It can reach up to minus 60 degrees centigrade on top of the equator. And it is a miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cause the air to cool down gradually as you go up. Although we are approaching the sun, we are going closer to the sun. Yet one of the miracles of creation is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused this zone of the atmosphere to cool up gradually, so that once water is evaporated from the earth, it finds a cool surface at which it condenses and comes down as rain.
So this zone is as if it's conditioned.
Yes, yes. So early commentators on this verse said that the most valuable thing that comes down to us from sky is rain. But if it is so, why didn't the Quran read by the sky that returns rain or returns water? Why the Quran said by the sky that has got the capacity to return? Actually, it is the capacity to return whatever is sent up to it or down on it. So this is a capacity Allah has given the atmosphere of the earth so that it can be a protective zone for life on the surface of that planet. And nowadays we find 10 forms of returning material or returning energy, either from the ground going up to the sky, coming back to ground, or from the outer atmosphere on top of the atmosphere of the earth, going back to the open space.
Like cosmic radiations?
Like cosmic radiation. But let's just speak about some of what the sky returns. The very first thing returned by the atmosphere of the earth, which is part of the sky, is sound waves. And unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this atmosphere a particular chemical and physical composition, we could have never hear each other, you see, because unless this air has got a certain density, a certain physical-chemical characteristics, it could have never sent back sound waves. And if so, nobody could hear anything. And imagine if we lived on this planet without being able to hear each other. Life would have been virtually impossible. So the first thing is sound waves, echo. Because the first thing that returns to us is the echo of the sound. Secondly, we know that dust storms can raise from the soil of the earth lots of dust particles. And actually these can enrich certain areas, can be very useful to move from one area to the other. And we know that most dust particles that are raised from the earth come back to earth. Most of the material that comes from the vents of volcanoes during volcanic eruption come back to earth. Some of it escape to outer space, but most of it come back to Earth. So anything that rises from Earth to the upper atmosphere, to the lower atmosphere even, it comes back to us. Thirdly, we have rain, which is one of the most valuable things that comes back to us from sky. Without it, life would have been impossible on the surface of that planet. Clouds that send back rain send back heat, because the Earth is heated during the day by the sun rays. Most of that heat is taken by the rocks of the Earth. Once the sun sets, this heat is irradiated, and more than 90% of that heat is reflected back by the clouds. And they call this the heat return, al-Raj'a al-Harari. This heat return was not known before.
Is this the greenhouse effect?
No. The greenhouse effect is the product of pollution.
Okay.
But this is a natural phenomenon, that every day the Earth is heated by the sun. Once the sun sets, the heat that has been absorbed by the rocks of the Earth are irradiated to the sky, and then the clouds that send rain also send heat.
So the sky is returning a lot of things, not
Those
just
are
one
not,
thing.
definitely. Not only shadow.
Exactly.
Yes, the clouds themselves send back 49% of the radiations of the sun. Otherwise would have been burned, actually. So this is a returning to outer space. This is what we see. And we can count nowadays at least 10 types of return. Above the clouds, we see the ozone layer. The ozone layer can send back ultraviolet radiation, or most of it. It can only allow a very small fraction to reach the Earth, which is needed for life. But most of the ultraviolet radiation, which is very harmful radiation, it penetrates the body, causes skin cancer, causes lots of eye diseases, can burn forests and burn animals and plants. This is sent back to outer space. Above that, we find the ionosphere. And the ionosphere is a charged zone, a zone full of ions, electrically charged particles. This can be used to send back radio waves and telecommunication waves. And without this is a form of return, which was not known until the 20th century. Above that, or within the ionosphere itself, we have the radiation belts, which are known as the Van Allen's belts. They send most of the cosmic radiation, which are actually lethal to life.
Yeah. So the returning is both returning
both
back
ways.
to Earth, returning back to the universe.
Back to the universe.
All for the benefit of mankind.
Or the benefit of life on the surface of that planet. Above that, we find the magnetosphere. Magnetosphere also plays a very important role in combating cosmic radiation away from the Earth. And it allows the cosmic radiation to revolve around the Earth without entering to the lower atmosphere. Above that, we have the exosphere, outer space. And most of these zones can help in expelling or sending away many harmful forms of matter and energy that come from the sun or from other stars. And all these zones also play a very important part in burning meteorites into meteors. And of course, only small quantities of dust or ash can reach the Earth. So we know today at least 10 forms, 5 forms of useful forms of matter and energy that rise from the Earth and are returned back to Earth by the sky, and 5 forms of matter and energy that come from outer space to our atmosphere and are sent back by these zones. So with one word, the glorious Qur'an has expressed this beautiful character of the sky, without which life would have been virtually impossible on the surface of our planet.
But I'm a bit confused here.
Yes.
The ionosphere is higher than the ozonosphere.
Yes.
Right? But the ozonosphere returns back radiation from the sun.
Yes.
And the ionosphere, which is above it, returns back radio waves to the Earth.
Yes. 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 It's amazing.
And also,
it's amazing. And actually, the returning back of these cosmic radiations plays a part in the ionization of the ionosphere.
SubhanAllah.
It's a very collective word, actually.
It is. It is
very,
indeed.
very much.
It is
It's
indeed.
like
With one
putting
word.
everything in one word.
With one word.
Exactly. A
And
lot
that's
of
why the
meanings.
Quran said, وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الرَّجْعِ.
Yes.
And as I said earlier, when a Quranic verse comes in the context of an oath, we all believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above giving an oath. Who are we that Allah will give us an oath? An oath is usually given by the weaker to the stronger,
Yes.
to the from the smaller to the greater. But when a Quranic verse comes in the context of an oath, this is a way of directing our attention to the importance of the matter by which the oath has been given.
So we can go on and do some researches.
Inshallah,
Exactly.
inshallah.
Professor Zaghloul, also our deeds, the deeds that we do,
Yes.
they are also returning from.
No, they are not returning. They are being recorded, and they will be exposed
Yes,
to
but
you
I
in the
think there is a
day of
saying
judgment. A film. Each one of us will receive a recorded film, and he will be asked, اقرأ كتابك كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا. Read your own book and judge yourself.
Yes, but one of the scholars said that if our deeds go up to
Yes.
the sky and they are good, then the circumstances will come from the sky and they are good also.
But this is not. This is a metaphoric way of saying it, because if you do something good, Allah will know it,
Yes.
and Allah will send a reward for it.
Yes.
This is the meaning of it. You see,
Yeah.
Allah will send your reward, and this reward comes from above.
Yes, subhanAllah. So I was just wondering, you said that the sky also returns heat.
Yes.
Yeah, what is it only the purpose of conditioning the earth?
Because if the sun sets without this heat return, we would have been frozen completely. We, animals, plants, the earth would freeze. So it's a mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the clouds that send down rain, they are the same clouds that send down heat to us. And strangely enough, this lower zone of the atmosphere is named scientifically the troposphere. And tropos means the sphere that returns. Troposphere means the sphere that returns.
That's in Latin.
Tropos in Latin means, yes, the sphere, exactly, as if it is an exact translation of the word ar-rajh.
And that was found out how many years ago?
Of course, very late in the 20th century.
SubhanAllah.
But the returning also has an effect. For example, during the summer,
Yes.
it's very hot,
Yes,
and during the night it's very cold.
yes.
Does this have any relation to what you're speaking?
You see, in summer, we have a wind driven from the sea to land due to the variation in the atmospheric pressure. So you have a breeze coming from the sea to land due to the heat on the land.
Okay.
Because if you heat the air, you actually reduce its density, and then they become a low of depression. And this attracts air currents from cooler zones. During winter time, you see, the earth would be cooler than the sea. And that's why the cool, we will cooler than the sea, and actually we will get a lighter, warmer wind from the sea to warm the earth. So this is again the transformation of heat has something to do with the pressure of the air.
Yeah.
Whether you have a high pressure zone or a low pressure zone.
But there's one thing also confusing me.
Yes.
In science, there is a law that hot air rises. How can the sky return hot air, make it coming down?
You see, the clouds reflect any waves, any heat waves that are sent up to it.
Okay.
So they just reflect it. Although it's a very cool zone, as I said, minus 60 degrees centigrade above the equator, yet the reflection is so swift, so quick, that it does not get the chance to be actually cold. It goes up and comes down immediately. It goes up and comes down immediately. Yeah.
Doctor, how can the volcanic eruptions, when they return, how could they be useful?
Because you see, you have lots of gases that come out from volcanic vents, lots of ashes that come up from the volcanic vents, and the greatest thing that comes from volcanic vents is water vapor. More than 70% of the gases coming out from volcanic eruptions is water vapor. And this water vapor, as it condenses in the clouds, come back as rain. And this is one of the most valuable additions of the water on the surface of our planet. And recently, most secular scholars speak about fighting for water, struggling for water. And they say the amount of water on the surface of our planet is limited, and the population is steadily increasing. So people have to fight for water. And they don't know that Allah, who has created that water from within molten magma at temperatures more than 1,000 degrees centigrade, is capable of sending more water through volcanic vents. So one of the most valuable things that come out from volcanic vents is water vapor. Secondly, we have carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is the basic element from which all the food chain is produced through the photosynthesis of plants. And you get carbohydrates, sugars, starches, cellulosic material. All this comes out of carbon dioxide.
SubhanAllah. So this very dangerous lava sea is very useful.
Very useful, very much
Very
needed.
interesting.
Yes.
We wish to continue, but sadly we have come to the end of this episode. We'll continue later. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you, our dear guests. Thank you, viewers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bum, 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 bum.